Good morning, guys, and how are you guys all this Saturday morning? This is the Club of the Man 1993, doing a very quick live review of this past Monday night's episode of Raw, the September 5th, 2022 edition of Raw. That, of course, was Labor Day, and it took place in Kansas City, Missouri. This is the Fallout show from WWE's Clash at the Castle 2022. And we are now on the road to the next pay-per-view, which is WWE Extreme Rules, taking place, I believe, on Saturday, October 8th, in Philadelphia, where WrestleMania 40 will be. Good chance I may go to that. But, we'll, of course, see what happens when it gets there. But as of now, I am seriously looking into going to WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Raw, this review is not going to be too long, which is why, I have, things to do today, but I thought I would do this one really quick to continue trying to get caught up. Raw this week, it was one of those shows where, not much really happened, but again, wasn't insulted either. I keep saying, it's okay to have a show like this where, not much really happened, but again, as I kept saying, the thing about Vince McMahon was he was insulting our intelligence. This, nothing was horrible, but other than Dominic Mysterio joining the Judgment Day, that storyline. Other than that, everything else was just there. It was what it was. We did, of course, have a return on this show. I will address that as well. And even when I saw that, I'm like, good to see him back. He's in great shape, but are we just picking up where we left off with him also? So, I'll get to that when we get to that. There's really only two big talking points to talk about this episode of Raw, in my opinion. Everything else was just there. Wasn't horrible, but it wasn't oh my gosh, and whatnot. But let's talk about it. Let's just go through Raw. And we will start off, of course, with the opening segment of Raw, which, of course, was probably the highlight of the show. So we opened up, of course, we get a recap of what happened with Clash at the Castle. And then we have Edge make his entrance. He's addressing Dominic Mysterio after Dominic turned on Rey and Edge after their match at Clash at the Castle this past Saturday against the Judgment Day. Edge mentions how he's known Dominic since his dad came to WWE when he was 5 years old. And they used to sit in the cafeteria together, pinging folks with pea shooters. When they run shows in San Diego, he stays with the Mysterios, and he and Rey would go get new tattoos. Just last year, he talked down Dom before his first match in front of a live audience. And he's always felt like a nephew to him. Which, of course, has that, personal feel to it. Good way to, get that personal feel to it. But then he's mentioning, clearly, though, apparently Dominic does not feel the same way. Because of that accidental spear that night, he apologized. His gut told him to take care of it, but his heart told him he didn't have to worry about Dom. He didn't come back to get between him and his dad. He came back to help them against the Judgment Day because he still believes that the Judgment Day is his fault. But after what Dominic did Saturday to both him and his dad, he knows Rey raised him better. They can hash it out however, but he's a different beast entirely. Basically, him and Rey can handle it how they want to, but him and Edge are going to handle it a different way. He's not looking at Dom like that 5-year-old kid. He's looking at Dom like a WWE superstar. And a man's game pays a man's price. And he needs Dom to get down here right now. Not for a talking, but for an ass beating. So first it's oh man, Edge is going to beat up a kid, but it's he's a grown man. He's got to learn his lesson, basically. About not to do what he did. Don't disrespect your authorities. But anyways, Rey came out. And of course, as you expected, Rey is trying to, not be the one to, get that personal right away at the beginning of something like this. As I mentioned in my turn alert yesterday. He asked Edge to hear him out. He's asking for an apology on his son's behalf. And for Edge to not do what he wants to do. But Edge's like, Ray, I love you, but your son is old enough to drink, to drive, to wrestle, and to stand for his own actions. And then Ray's just like, I can't watch this and whatnot. And Edge calls out Dom again. And then out comes Rhea Ripley. And she tells them both to calm down because they got exactly what's coming to them at Clash at the Castle. Edge thought he could replace Dom like he didn't matter. And Ray thought he could protect him like his little baby boy. But he's not anymore because she saw potential in him and made him into a man. And I'm like, oh God, what did they do to him? Dom came walking out wearing all black like the Judgment Day, his hair slicked back, and as someone said on Twitter, I think it was, basically looking like an emo version of Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, which I can agree. But I like the look. Like I said in my turn alert, like the whole idea behind this heel turn is that you gotta get Dom away from being just looked at like Ray's son. Or I'm sorry, more so importantly, Ray's kid. Like, give him like his own entity and make him like that. That's gonna help him grow his character. Like separating him from like working. Well, he's gonna fight he's gonna have a match with his father eventually. He is, but separating him away from being like the little Mysterio boy, and him being like something his own entity different. But I did like this look, and I like what they did. So he came out with everything slicked back, but then Ray was like in Dom's face, like begging him to snap out of this, and Dom was like, "Can't hear you," like pretending like he wasn't even there, not even looking at him. And Ray tells him to snap out of this though and make things right with Edge. But then Rhea tells him Dom isn't listening to him anymore, and he can't keep fighting his battles for him. And Edge is past his time because he can't stop his Judgment Day. They advance, and Ray sets down the mic and goes to meet them in the ramp and asks Dom not to do this, of course, but his son doesn't acknowledge him and won't even look at him like I said before. Damian Priest and Finn Balor jump Edge in the... Well, at first, here's the thing. At first, Ray basically says, I'm not getting in the middle of this. And he walks out. I think I thought there was a time though where I think what happened was Dom finally acknowledged Ray and just like kind of like pushed him out of the way. I kind of grabbed him and shoved him back, and he's just like, I'm not getting in the middle of this. This is between you two, not you and I. But of course, either way, Dom's still not listening to Ray. So then Damian Priest and Finn Balor do jump Edge from behind and beat him down. And then Dominic runs in though and like kind of like turns the tables as he does like a nice looking chop block to Edge's knee. And then of course they beat down on Edge, and Ray finally comes back, but at that time it was too late. They had done damage to Edge's knee, which I thought at first was a way to write Edge off TV for now. I guess it's not yet, as he is going to be on Raw next week. I'll explain what we can do in a second. Again, like I said by Turner, Dom to join the Judgment Day, like, it's 50-50 about it. Like I said, I think I would have liked it a little bit better if Judgment Day would have won on Saturday. But like I said, the way the Edge and Ray won was because Dom helped them. So this could be Dom saying, hey, you want experience over me? Well, I showed that I was the only reason why you guys won. So now I can contribute to a team who actually wants my experience, like the Judgment Day. And the other problem is we're still keeping this feud going on with Edge, Mysterio's, and Edge, Ray, and the Judgment Day. Like I said, it's starting to get a little too long. Because the same thing, I mean, Dom, joining Judgment Day is a different way for it to go. But again, it's getting a little too long. I feel, in my opinion. But I still like, the revamping of Dom as a heel. Like, this was definitely my highlight of the show, for sure. It was the story with Dom. We, of course, then see The Miz arrive with Tommaso Ciampa. And again, he was called Tommaso Ciampa again, as he is once again. Miz still refuses to talk about Dexter Lumis, especially we addressed that at the end of last week's show. They saw him in the car with Lumis in the back seat, but he doesn't want to talk about it. But he's focused on his U.S. title match with Bobby Lashley later on in the show, which I'll talk about that at the end also. And then Tommaso Ciampa sees a card turned over, and he and Miz investigate briefly before moving on. So obviously that was either Dexter Lumis, I'm not going to sing the song that I haven't making up, or was the person who would return during the next match, which I'm pretty sure you could go with whoever was returning to the next match. Which the next match was a Fatal 4-Way number 1 contenders match for the Unified Tag Team Championships. It was, and the thing also was, it was mostly SmackDown guys. Alpha Academy's Chad Gable and Otis, Los Lotharios' Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, New Day's Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. So, first off, the choice of teams for this match was a little strange. Yet there really isn't any other teams. But also, most of them were heels. And most of them, really aren't worthy of a tag title shot right now. I'd say of all of them, the one I would probably go with out of 4 of them is Alpha Academy. But even so, again, they're heels. And the tag champs are heels. But, because Los Lotharios, I like them, but they still don't feel like they still feel like low carders, card people right now. The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, didn't they just lose to the Viking Raiders last Friday in the Viking Rules match? So, it would make more sense for the Viking Raiders to be in this match instead. And then the Street Profits just had a feud with the Usos. And again, they're adding on other tag teams. We got Hit Row. We got Imperium, who just got reformed. Gosh, I can't remember who else there was. But yeah, it's like it felt something like the choices of teams didn't quite feel correct for this. But that didn't really matter because, well, first off, we had 2 commercial breaks. There was this weird moment before the first commercial break, because, again, one thing I can't stand about these, Fatal 4-Way or Triple Threat tag matches is the rules are always changing. Excuse me. One moment, all teams have one person in the ring. But then it's rules like here where, another team can tag themselves into the match. They had this spot there where Kofi tapped whoever was in the ring against Xavier Woods. And the referee said that was legal. So technically the competitors in the ring at the time were Kofi and Xavier. And then basically Xavier laid down for Kofi to pin him. And everybody just jumped in to stop the pin. I thought that was a little different, but it was strange. But then we get to, after 2 commercial breaks, we then have Chad Gable putting Montez Ford in the ankle lock. And then we hear, of course, we heard rumors very heavy for most of last week that this person was indeed coming back, but he did, of course, did. We hear, Run! Braun Strowman makes his WWE return since his release back in June of 2021. And he came out, and for a few minutes, he basically just wreaked havoc and took out all the tag teams. I mean, he basically, targeted the heels like Gable and Otis. and Los Lotharios. I think the only babyface he targeted, he did anything to, was Angelo Dawkins. But the way the crowd was cheering, the way he was like reacting to the crowd, it was obvious that he was a babyface here. Which caused it to be a no contest. I'll, of course, add on when I get to my SmackDown review. It's good to see Braun back, don't get me wrong. But also, he looks in phenomenal shape. I'll give him that, too. It felt like, though, we were just picking up where he left off. Or was it just me? Because I think the problem with Braun Strowman was, before he got released, was that they built him up too strong. Too strong to the point that you had to capitalize on him at the very top. And except for, of course, when he had to fill in for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 36 and beat Goldberg for the Universal title, because, as I said before, they didn't put the titles on Braun when they wanted to, when they wanted him to have the titles, when they needed him to have the titles. And because, again, you literally, you had this happen so many times where he basically like took out everybody, but in the moment he gets his shot for the world title, he fails. It happened too many times that, again, nobody cared. So when the way they brought him back, to me it felt like, is anything going to be different this time? Because also, why would you take out everybody involved in the number one contenders match for the tag titles? Like, how does that make everybody else look, you know? And then I guess there was a segment later on in the show where basically he's saying how the monster among men is back and nobody is safe and he will see us on SmackDown. I gotta be honest. As I said last week when I think I talked about the rumors, the heavy rumors of him coming back, I think they should have brought Braun back as a heel. I really think so. Again, as a babyface, you got this booking, which first off probably took a hit to the tag team division, but you get this booking where, again, like he can take out everybody, and the only thing he has to do is win the world title and be on top. But again, because he's missed out so many times on it, he didn't capitalize. Like again, like why care when it happens? Because that's why I think to get invested in him again, you gotta make him a heel. I think they should have brought him back as a heel and not a babyface. Just my opinion. So yeah, I have concerns the way they brought him back. Because at this point, it's like he's got to be the one. The only thing he's got to do is take the titles off Roman. He's got to do it. Like if you could do that, I think he'd be okay. But if you're gonna do this booking where it's like, again, he's like taking everybody out, and then it's like a team that constantly. It's like, again, because I'm a baseball fan. It's like a team like the Detroit Tigers. For a couple years, it's like they kept winning the American League pennant, but they wouldn't win the World Series. Like, that's not what it is with Braun Strowman. He's winning, like, everything except the World Series, basically. And after a while, it's like everything else feels meaningless. So, like I said, I'm not sure how we're going to go forward, because even the way they had him appear on SmackDown, it's like, that's it? Like, that's all you're going to do? Like, again, if you're going to book him, we're going to book him this way, you might as well should have brought him back as a heel. Also, he did botch his thing where he runs around outside the ring like the Strowman Express or whatever he is. He went to go, ram in the Chad Gable before spearing Otis through the barricade. He slipped and fell right underneath Chad Gable's foot. It was actually kind of funny, but that was a botch. And then he got up and just like rammed Otis through the wall. So yeah, like I said, that was not. I mean, they should have just had like even if it was just like Alpha Academy issued an open challenge and Braun came out, I would have been okay with that. But like again, like the fact that again they did it, they had him come out and just like wreak havoc on the tag team division, just like dominate 8 people. It's just like, okay, like last night on SmackDown, there was an 8-man tag match. Well, then again, it was also a way to get Hit Row, some more momentum going also. But even just like a regular 8-man tag match like that, just like an 8-man tag match just with just like exhibition style, that would have been okay. But a number 1 contenders match, I don't know. And like I said, I just feel like they have to do something different with Braun if they're bringing him back. Otherwise, again, it's going to look like why did they bring him back in the first place? So, I still think they need to turn Braun Strowman heel. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, he looks in great shape. But again, I just think they got to do something different with him this time around. We have Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez take on Doudrop and Nikki Ash in a quick match. And the tag champs win. Next week, this coming on Raw, we are going to get them taking on Damage Control in a rematch for the women's tag titles, where Damage Control most likely will win, as I think so. There have been some segments backstage where you see Nikki and Doudrop argue in the background. And I think one recently, they had Nikki take off her mask and throw it at Doudrop and walk away. So hopefully that's a sign that maybe they're going to repackage the both of them and give them back their old gimmicks, which I hope. Rey Mysterio's backstage saying he can't say much because he loves his son. He needs to have a word with him in private. And he also keeps saying that he refuses to put his own hands on his own son. But no one deserves their asses handed to them more than the Judgment Day after all that they've done to him and his family, and of course Edge. And he wants a one-on-one match against one of them tonight. We have Austin Theory then come out, and he was nursing his jaw. He botched a couple times, but he kept blaming it on his jaw, which was, quite hilarious. He was ranting about how Tyson Fury costed him his opportunity to cash in again for Money in the Bank. He still says that he still thinks unfinished business between him and Roman, and he's the uncrowned champion. Which out comes Kevin Owens, and he taunts Theory and talks about him getting knocked out, KO'd, if you will. He also realized he got his first name back, so he can call him Austin again. Hi, Austin! He hates arrogant and delusional people more than anything, and Theory won't be the last delusional person he'll have to deal with in the company. But right now, he's at the top of the list. And then he's complaining about how Tyson Fury costed him his cash in. Well, he prevented him from cashing in. But he actually did Austin Theory a favor, because if he had cashed in on Drew or Roman, he would have failed. And Austin's like, that doesn't he doesn't know that he feels bad for KO, so he's going to tell him to be the first in line for a shot when he wins the title. But Owens said that's not the case because he wrestled both Roman Reigns and McIntyre. And he knows for a fact he could beat them both. Again, he mentioned how, his match got interrupted with Drew McIntyre a few weeks ago, and he believes he still could have won that match. I still believe he could have won that match, too. He also, of course, goes back and mentions how if it wasn't for Paul Heyman and Jey Uso, he would have been the Universal Champion back at the Royal Rumble, and Roman's 700-some title reign would not exist right now. It would have ended after 6 months. But he also knows that the only reason Austin Theory is in this ring with that contract is because he wasn't in the Money in the Bank ladder match himself. Also, someone implied that certain someone's not here anymore. But also, he might have once been the future, but not anymore. And any second now, a referee's going to come down so they can have a fight. And they had a match. And I thought it was actually a pretty good match. One of the better wrestling matches on the show. Kevin Owens does eventually win. There was some great back and forth, but Owens does win with the stunner. Good match. Kevin Owens is still hot right now, and I'm loving where they're going with him. I feel like they should give him a little more of a serious feud for Extreme Rules right now. But we'll see, of course, who else there really is for him to work with, because I still think that they're building eventually to I don't know when it will happen, but him and Zayn taking on the Usos, which of course could take an interesting turn since there is a new member of the Bloodline, which you found out on SmackDown, and of course at Clash of the Castle. Another interview with Miz and Ciampa backstage, same stuff we're getting. I don't want to talk about this and that. And also talking about the steel cage match, which I'll say that at the end, how I thought something still didn't make sense for the build for the steel cage match. We didn't have Damage Control come down, and Bayley talks about how they want to Clash the Castle. Dakota says, imagine what they'll do to the rest of the women's roster. Io says her stuff before saying how next week they're going to take the tag titles. And Dakota again points out that she wasn't the legal woman when she was pinned last week, and they'll take what's rightfully theirs. And of course, Bianca came out, and of course, Bianca, of course, mentions how it took all three of them to put her down, not just one of them. But if Bayley really wants a shot, you got it tonight. But Bayley says how it's Labor Day and she's not working. They're just here to celebrate their victory. But until Bayley has the title, she's going to be in control of nothing. But a Damage Control surround her, and Bayley tells her to relax, they'll leave peacefully. She doesn't have anything else to prove. She's still the same Bianca trying to play Miss Perfect all the time. She knows her fragile ego can't handle this one little loss, so she's going to come after Bayley to try and prove that it's a fluke. They could have ended her here and now, but they have important things to focus on. Don't worry, though. When Bayley wants that title, she'll get it one way or another. So obviously, it just starts a slow build to come over. So we're going to wrestle on my terms, even though, Bianca had no one else with her. But, Johnny Gargano's interviewed backstage, basically saying that, talking again, and then Austin Theory rolls up and just, Austin trashes him again, says that nobody cares. And he's more so Johnny talking rather than Johnny wrestling. But then Johnny reveals he's going to have his first match back next week on Raw. Damian Priest and Rey Mysterio had a one-on-one match, which was all right. The most notable moment, though, was towards the end of the match. Of course, Judgment Day was out there, watching. Finn had a chair in hand. And then towards the end of the match, when Rey went for the 619, Dominic just jumped up on the apron and stopped his dad from hitting the 619. And he's basically pleading with him, stop doing this, and it didn't work. And it led to Damian hitting the South of Heaven to get the victory. Afterwards, they surround Rey, and then Rhea gets on the mic. She says, now that Damian took Rey out, that's just one man left in the way. And Dom is going to send him into retirement, because what Poppy wants, Poppy gets. And next week, we're going to have a one-on-one match with Edge and Dominic Mysterio. So that was not completely writing Edge off TV. We'll see how that goes. I mean, Edge being Dom's first opponent as a heel is pretty big. Like I said, we'll see how that goes. I'm intrigued, but we'll see how that goes. Bobby Lashley has a backstage promo talking about him being locked in a steel cage because Miz thinks he'll keep him safe from Dexter Loomis, but he'll be across from the most dangerous man in WWE, and he's the only one the A-listers should be afraid of. We had that Braun Strowman promo. We got, again, a recap of the Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins match. Before Matt Riddle was interviewed after the match and saying he wants another match and with Seth, and he wants it as soon as possible. And then basically, Seth had an interview where he's like, nope, I'm good. I'm moving on. I beat him. That's all I got to do. I'm moving on. And then we had the main event. Bobby Lashley and The Miz for the United States Championship inside of a steel cage. Before the match, Miz blinded Lashley with a belt shot before the bell rang, and him and Ciampa basically beat down on Lashley outside the ring. And I think they laid him out and did damage to his wrist or something like that. But then we had the steel cage match. What was weird about this is the whole idea was, I guess first they announced this, I'm like, why on earth would The Miz want to be in a steel cage match with Bobby Lashley. Just last year, Miz made a deal with Bobby Lashley to help him cash in his Money in the Bank contract and win the WWE Championship. But then Miz was scared to face Lashley and making up excuses that he couldn't have the matches for a few weeks before they finally had a lumberjack match for Lashley to win his first world title. So, yeah, the idea that Miz is being locked inside of a steel cage with Lashley, but also, why would Miz want to be inside of a steel cage with Lashley either? He's scared of both of them. That didn't quite make sense. The match was alright. Of course, the most notable thing was at the end where Miz was trying to climb out the cage. But as he's at the top, he looks down, and Dexter Lumis is laying on the floor with his head just peeking right out from below. And then Miz climbed back in. Bobby Lashley speared him. Afterwards, so Dexter Lumis crawled in the cage. Miz tried to run away, but then Lashley slams the door shut, and then Lumis did his submission maneuver. And then makes the Miz pass out, but then Lumis starts petting him on the head, and I'm like, that's original Dexter Lumis. Does he feel bad for his victims or something? I don't know. It was strange. It was kind of showing that, okay, I like how they've done a little bit different and spiced up Dexter Lumis a little bit since bringing him back. But it's starting to get a point now, okay, we gotta take this. I feel we gotta pick up the pace on this one a little bit. You know what I mean? Again, the stuff was still good. I mean, like I said, I gave this show a C+. It was at first I thought it was more so average, but again, I really like the stuff, of course, they did with Dominic. But it's also a show where it's okay, we gotta pick up the pace a little bit here, guys. But yeah, that's how Raw went off the air. Again, I gave it a C+. It was a decent show. Again, I like the stuff with Dominic was definitely the highlight of the show. Owens in theory had a good match, but it was just a good exhibition type match. It was good, but again, Austin Theory is more so entering a feud with Johnny Gargano. And Kevin Owens, with with how well he's been booked right now, I think it's time we put him in the feud. We gotta get him a serious feud, something for Extreme Rules. If they're not gonna do him and Sammy taking on the Usos yet. If they're not gonna do that yet, then they gotta give Owens something serious to do. Because this Kevin Owens character really cannot be ignored. But yeah, C+ for Raw. We just have one person saying hello in the live chat. I'm sorry I cannot pronounce the name, but thank you for joining me live. But that's my review of Raw. Probably tomorrow I will do my next review to catch up on, which is my AEW Dynamite review. That's going to be a very, very interesting review, because that will be the show where I discuss the media scrum and the fallout from all that, and my thoughts on the whole situation with AEW. And let me also say this. I didn't say this last night. I want to talk about what happened, but once it's over, because Jon Moxley set the tone right, set things straight, I felt, on Dynamite with the promo he cut. Once I talk about that media scrum, I just want to move on. Because that media scrum and the fallout of it was honestly one of the most heartbreaking moments for me as a wrestling fan. Because of who was involved and how this could impact their futures. So we'll talk about that when we get to that review. But that's not going to be today. That's going to be tomorrow sometime. But yeah, talk a little longer than I thought I would about this episode of Raw. But I gave it a C+. We'll see what happens that further down the line. As again, we are starting to build to Extreme Rules. So guys, once again, what are your thoughts on this episode of Raw? What's your thoughts on Dominic joining the Judgment Day? Your thoughts on him taking on Edge on next week's episode of Raw? And, anything else they thought happened on the show? Braun Strowman's return, where they're going with Miz and Dexter Lumis as well. Make sure you guys leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure as always to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. And follow me on Twitter as well at DemandAirboy93. Until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you guys all later. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and peace out, everybody.